Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kent with Bent 100 or 121. There it is.
Yay!
Kentenheimer. Welcome,
All
Bent.
right. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. Bent, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking.
All right. That's good because not too long ago you weren't doing too well. So,
Yeah, I got pretty sick
yeah.
for a couple of days,
It was more than a couple.
for 4 days.
Yeah, except that before that it had also been for another like 4 days previously. Not that long
Yeah,
before.
that's true. I've been sick
Yeah.
this past couple months, off and
Yeah.
on, so,
No fun. But hey,
but I'm feeling great
Um,
now.
yeah, I'm glad you're back. I think the audience is glad you're back,
Yeah.
right? Hey, if you're glad that Benthoven is back, send the Majka emoji in the chat, assuming you're a member. If you're not a member, there's a button to become one right below this video. So there you go. Because I need to pay rent.
Exactly.
So, Bent, what are we here? What are we doing today? What's the deal? What's the
Oh, we're
show?
gonna listen to Uncle Kent, no relation, talk
Right.
about some stupid things, and then there's gonna be drink triggers too.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the drink thing. Well, first of all, there is a Kent with Bent drinking game. Now, the important thing to remember about the Kent with Bent drinking game is one, your participation is entirely optional, and two, your participation in no way is required to involve alcohol. You can play with tea, water, juice, soda, vapes, water. I think I said water already, but you can still do it. But I don't care. Potato chips. Eat a potato chip for each drink. I don't care. Whatever you want. Whatever works for you is what works for you. But if you do choose to play with some kind of inebriating substance, I do want everyone to remember to be safe, know your limits. Don't go play the drinking game and then, well, I don't know, drive a car, operate heavy machinery, text your ex. Just don't do it. And a big part of that is that Bent and I, and the whole channel, and all my co hosts, we accept neither liability nor responsibility if you decide to go overboard and do something stupid. That's on you. You've been warned.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. All right. With that out of the way, though, let's go into the drink triggers. Before that, though, we do have a super chat that was given at 7 p.m. Yesterday, I guess, on this from DM Ian Nasir sells bad copper wing, which says made of plastic. It's fantastic, which is the wrong movie because this isn't Barbenheimer. This is Kentenheimer. There's no Barbie here. Not this time. Maybe next week. Maybe it'll be like Kenty? That's boring. It's really boring. But it might be fun with the Barbie font, is the thing there. If I can get the Barbie font, it might become fun. Yeah, we'll have to see about that. One of the problems with like the two or the one word movie titles or even 2-word movie titles, it's really hard to turn them into Kent-based puns.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Because like so many people have been like, what about this movie? I'm like, what do I call it? Hovind? That's not a good title. So what do you want from me? Alright, so let's talk about some of the drink triggers. So if Kent Hovind says something that's so stupid, it makes our brains hurt too much, and we just have to take a drink, then we take a drink for it. If Kent Hovind says something that is actually true, factually accurate, and he's not just reading a citation, he's actually coming up with it on his own, we take a drink. Now, we do tend to be pretty generous with that one, because for one thing, Kent is incredibly stupid. And I mean incredible in like the strict sense where like it's hard to believe that anyone can be this stupid. So yeah, that's the very strict sense. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind tells a joke that doesn't land or a story that didn't happen. So, like, if he tells the story of how his little girl befuddled a museum tour guide only for him to be led to Christ after he realized that geology was bullshit, actually, yeah, we take a drink for that. Because even if there's a kernel of truth to that, it's not exactly what happened. I can guarantee you that. Let's see. We have a couple chats to read. Jillian Wren is not a breatharian who's been a member for 7 months and is at the Amiot level, says, this has come to mean so much to me that I was here yesterday so tired that I blinked stupidly and said, at chat begins in 24 hours and couldn't figure it out. Aw, well, thank you. One, I really do appreciate that people really love the show. It means a lot because, I mean, I work hard to make this show a fun time. You know, Bent knows, like, it's
Yeah,
not easy for
no
me to
problem.
just, just do the stream, right? I try to make it look easy, but like, yeah, no, I spend time trying to make sure that everything's going to work out, and yeah, it's a big deal, and I'm really glad that people appreciate it. Let's see. Astus Spacefaring Homo erectus Ryu for $616. Not 616, it's $6.16. The other number of the beast says, I'd say AIG is an inventory of the thing that Oppenheimer regretted helping bring into the world, but those have one lobe, and an AIG needs two. So we'll take a drink for that and mention that drink trigger. Wow, we're 9 minutes in. We only had one drink trigger so far. Everybody's slacking, I guess. Anyway,
There'll be more.
anyone who super chats or membership milestone chats, anything to the effect that AIG are a bag of dicks, will take a drink for that. And that is because of their historic abuse of the YouTube copyright system, which is wildly stacked against people who are using fair use and defending themselves from copyright claims. In fact, not that long ago, there was someone who, immediately after getting access to the YouTube copyright system, started issuing copyright strikes against people using his clips for with fair use in mind. Sorry. And yeah, whenever any of them challenge that strike, because a strike on your channel is a really big deal, and challenging it is basically the only thing you can do, he just published their addresses. Yeah, so, yeah, like, that's the kind of thing that can happen to you on the YouTube copyright system. It's ridiculous. Royland, who's been a member for 18 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, Kent, get bent with a Godzilla emoji. And that was all with the special members-only emojis, so take a drink. Because that is for the Godzilla. If anyone sends a super chat or milestone chat with one of the kaiju emojis, we take a drink for that, too. Also, Mothra or Godzilla might come by audibly at some point during the stream. It's hard to say, but it does happen. Now, if Kent, let's see, if he mentions the National Socialist German Workers' Party, the NSDAP, you might want to Google those if you don't know what they are, or mentions their more prominent members or leaders, or mentions their more historically significant activities in the middle of the 20th century especially, we'll take a drink for that. We call that the Godwin's Law drink trigger. Savage answers in Yahweh's Cobra for $2, says, highlight of the week, get bent, Maj Kha. Thank you very much. I'm glad that I've reinvigorated the use of Maj Kha, because it's been very infrequently used of late. So, remember everybody, the Maj Kha emoji is to celebrate things.
Mm-hmm.
So use it appropriately, which is like this right now. It's fine. It's good use of it. Anyway, let's see. Oh yes, Alex Markle does point out that thankfully his channel got nuked. Yeah, his channel did get nuked. Because that is in fact a violation. You're not allowed to do that. But I mean, technically, anytime anyone ever copyrights, if anyone ever copyright strikes me, I have to give them my address. So yeah. Liz D for $2 says AIG is a bag of Kents, and we all know what Kent is. We'll take a drink for that. Thank you. We will also take a drink if one of us can successfully predict what Kent Hovind is about to say, when it's not very clear what he's about to say. We'll also take a drink if Kent Hovind cites a source that, rather than supporting him, not only fails to support him, but actively works against him. We call that a Trojan source. We also have ad hominid. If at any point Kent mixes up Lucy, the Australopithecus, with anything bigger than just her as an individual, with her species, her genus, Miocene apes at large, any of those things, that's ad hominem, but we can only get it once per stream. Because when it happens once, it tends to then just happen over and over and over and over again. So, yeah. Bent, what am I forgetting?
Gift channel memberships.
Gifted memberships, that's true, right. If you gift memberships, which is down there with the little $sign below your chat, we'll take a drink per gifted membership. That goes up to about 30. At 30, I'm just going to take finish my drink, and we're going to move on after I add the 30 to the drink counter. Let's see. DM Ian Nasir sells bad copper wing for $2. Says, can we get a Cree emoji? It's the Jaffa Aloha. So I'll tell you what the deal is with emojis. Right now, YouTube says that I need 29 members. Now, the tricky thing about that, though, is that every single day, someone's gifted membership is going to expire, right? So, unless I can snatch that emoji immediately, it might not end up happening. So, the safe thing to say is, like, it'll probably be, like, 40 more members until I can get another emoji. Ren for $4.99 says, AIG is an overloaded bag of holding stuffed with red rockets. Oh, oh man. I love that it also involved D&D. That's very nice. All right, here we go. Kent here is talking about how, according to him, you can't get rocks radiometrically dated unless you already know how old they're supposed to be because of the geologic column. I don't know that he's going to provide any citations for this, but let's see what happens.
Which is why they generally will not date, unless you trick them into doing it, they won't date dinosaur bones with carbon dating.
I can think of some better reasons why you wouldn't date dinosaur bones with carbon dating, assuming that they're not, like, modern birds. But we have 10 memberships that have just been given by Savage Answers and Yahweh's Cobra. So, they went to Yumao, Stephen Leahy, Shazami Whammy, Jester Lord of Fools, Ernex, Melly, Damien McLagan, not Severino, Attila Conceição, Azo64, and Rick. So, everybody, send sessile tunicates, not pelagic tunicates, and tetrapods. Everyone who's sending pelagic tunicates is doing it wrong, even if you're bent. But here goes 10 drinks. Here we go. I'm drinking, by the way, Kraken and Cola. It's alliterated. Also, nice. Kraken nips are $1 a pop, and I didn't want to spend a lot of money on booze. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I forget that stuff is overproof. 8, 9, and 10. And also, asks a spacefaring Homo erectus Ryu for $5 says, of course they wouldn't date dinosaur bones. You need to get to know them first with the Godzilla. Thank you. Let's see. Paleologo says, good evening, Dapper. My first time hearing ad hominid. Lol. I will say that Lucy is often used to refer to Australopithecus at large in the scientific communication. Yeah, I do want to clarify that a little bit. It's not just mixing her up. It is specifically doing things like saying, well, we don't know Lucy was a biped, or we don't know if Australopithecus afarensis is a biped, because we didn't find Lucy's feet. Which, true, we didn't find Lucy's feet, but that doesn't matter, because she's one particular individual whose feet we didn't find, but we found other members of her species and genus whose feet we did find. And so it's a little bit more complicated than just, like, offhandedly referring to Australopithecus as Lucy. Like, if you just say, oh, that's Lucy, but then you don't actually get anything wrong about Australopithecus on the basis of the Lucy find itself as a skeleton, it doesn't really count. I just don't always go into that great depth about it because it's a little bit more complicated than just that. So, yeah, it's not just using Lucy as a reference for her whole genus or whatever. So, I just wanted to clear that up because Paleologos is someone who would know the difference and who would get it right. Mm-hmm. I know Paleologos well enough to know that he would not be someone who would be guilty of the ad hominid drink trigger. All right, here we go.
Because they assume dinosaurs lived 70 million years ago, and carbon dating only goes back 30 or 40,000 years.
No. It's because, generally speaking, dinosaur bones just don't have any organic carbon. In order for something to be carbon dated, it has to have been formerly living organic material, which, I mean, if it's formerly living, then, I mean, it's going to be organic. But yeah, if it's not formerly living material, then it cannot be carbon dated, no matter how young it is. Which means if you had a permineralized fossil from, say, 10,000 years ago, which is unlikely, but I can't say that it's impossible. I don't know what would make it impossible. But if you did have such a thing, 10,000-year-old, say, mammoth rib, just so happened to be permineralized. That's well within the range of carbon dating. You still couldn't carbon date it because it's not organic material anymore. It's now rock in the shape of a mammoth rib. So, no, that's not the reason you can't carbon date dinosaur bones. You can't carbon date dinosaur bones because, generally speaking, they're not bone anymore. They're rocks in the form of bone, which is one of the reasons why some of them are so radioactive that they have to be stored in lead containers with limited, exposure to people. You have a stay time limit for certain fossils because they're made of radioactive rock. Which, yeah, that's fun time. Yeah. So, yeah.
And so they won't even do it. But when they do date dinosaur bones with carbon dating, it comes back 20, 25,000 years old.
No, generally speaking, the instances in which creationists generally have lied to labs in order to get them to waste time on tests that are meaningless, they generally come back at like 45, 50,000 years. Because guess what that is?
That's the max.
Yeah, that's the high-end reading, right? So the way I usually explain this is like, let's say that you had a kitchen scale, right? And you you use it to like measure the weight of ingredients. And so let's just say, I don't actually know, but let's just say it goes up to like 2 kilograms, right? Which is a lot for a kitchen measurement, right? Like, when are you adding 2 kilograms of something to your food? I mean, unless you're like cooking at an industrial scale, you're usually not. So, but that's what the maximum of the scale is. So then I come over and I say, well, I've got this cubic meter of steel. I want to know how much it weighs. Let me put it on the kitchen scale. And assuming the kitchen scale doesn't just break, what's it going to read? It's going to read 2 kilograms. Does 2 cubic meters of steel weigh 2 kilograms or more than 2 kilograms?
A little bit more.
Yeah, it's a little bit more, right? It's a lot more, actually. And that's the same thing, right? Oh, Paleologo says, I have an ammonite fossil that is encrusted in uranium ore. Yeah, you might want to keep that inside of a lead-lined container there. That seems bad. Savage Answers in Yahweh's Cobra for $5 says, I thought dinosaur bones were radioactive because they were bitten by radioactive eurypterids. No, see, you're mistaken because eurypterids didn't make it into the Mesozoic. So they couldn't have been bitten by radioactive eurypterids. That's why, like, Gorgonopsid fossils are radioactive, is because they were bitten by radioactive eurypterids. So, And yeah, also, Captain Rhino Rider points out, you do occasionally get things like a Triceratops leg bone that is dated younger than the maximum, but then noticed to be contaminated with, like, roots of plants and fungal mycelia, or even sometimes small animals that are then feeding on those things, or bacteria. So, yeah. There are 2 ways in which dinosaur remains end up carbon dated, and one is, yeah, they just hit the maximum, which is what you would expect. And 2, sometimes they dig below that, and it turns out that it's, it's contamination. Now, if anyone wants to bring up Mark Armitage, let me know when he's done his work to actually show that his quote-unquote dinosaur horn is actually dinosaur horn, because so far, he hasn't.
Not millions of years old. Okay. This Niles Eldridge is director of the American Museum of Natural History in New York, a strong believer in evolution. He spoke at University of West Florida. I went and heard him speak.
Every time Kent Hovind says a strong believer in evolution, I just think, a person who knows what he's talking about.
Right.
Which is not fair, because people who believe in evolution often have crazy takes anyway. But that's okay.
He said, paleontologists cannot operate this way. There is no way simply to look at a fossil and say how old it is unless you know the age of the rocks it comes from.
Yeah, that's true. That's because rocks are generally dated by radiometric dating of igneous extrusions, which come above and below them, right? So, if Kent is just going to say, well, then we only know by stratigraphy, that means he's lying. Or if he even more says, we only know because of stratigraphy that is informed by index fossils. That's even more of a lie. So let's see what he does.
What's he saying there? You find a fossil, you have to know how old the layer of rock is. He said, and this poses something of a problem. If we date the rocks by their fossils, which is how it's done, how can we then turn around and talk about patterns of evolutionary change through time in the fossil record? Again, he's admitting circular reasoning.
I'm going to go ahead and guess that Niles Eldredge answered that question. Let's see if I can find this quotation. And this poses something of a problem, if we date the rocks by their fossils, how can we then turn around and talk about, I can't spell today, about patterns of evolutionary change through time in the fossil record? And we'll say Great.
L3.
All right. Where does this come up? Oh, the Institute for Creation Research is the first one. Now, I don't have access to this book, and I'm not going to go buy it for this particular show, because, I mean, that's a little crazy. Let's see. Let's find it, and this... What was this? Okay. That is not very helpful, guys. I don't know. I can't seem to find the context on this quote. That's weird. Looking at the quote mine project, that just lists the quote mine. Let's see. Other than that, all I'm seeing is Creationist quote mine archives, which is, you know, a little funny. Let's see. Yeah, that's just a quote mine. It's just out of context. It's weird how I can't seem to find the context. Like, no one's bothering to, you know, actually include that. Idea Center, Genesis Park, Creation Worldview Ministries, Watchman Magazine, creationsd.org. All the places I can find this are all Creationist quote mine collections. Weird, isn't it? It's weird how all of them include exactly this quote, nothing after. Funny.
Nothing before.
Yeah, MK Ultra for 15 shekels says, my new credit card has arrived, so just dropped the super chat, and AIG are a bag of lofas, Hungarian for horses, you know. All right. Fits of Intercontinental Ballistic Volcano Rage, who's been a member for 3 months, is at the Tetrapod level, says, drink. Hashtag gotta catch up to my pre-gaming with a Mothra emoji. There we go. And DM Wing says it might be an invented one. Yeah, here's the thing about Creationist quote mines, especially if you have trouble finding the full context. It often means that they're just made up, that they don't actually exist as quotes. One of the problems is that they love to quote like non-peer-reviewed stuff. Like, this is from Simon & Schuster, 1985, which we know that this was made sometime around 2007, right? So this is already like a 22, 23-year-old quote when this is made. And it's in a non-peer-reviewed popular level journal or book, which basically makes it impossible to check up on, because now it's what is it, almost 40 years old. You think I'm going to go out and buy a 40-year-old book just so I can check up on this? No. That's why it's important to cite peer-reviewed literature, because peer-reviewed literature, even going back quite far, ends up being archived digitally pretty frequently. So, yeah, thanks, Kent.
I like this one. The rocks do date the fossils, but the fossils date the rocks more accurately. I don't see how they can't see this.
I don't even know who that was.
Admitting circular reasoning. I like this one. The rocks do date the fossils, but the fossils date...
O'Rourke, J.E. Apparently, at some point, some guy named J.E. O'Rourke said a thing on some day, on some occasion, to someone. That is an even worse citation. I'm just going to drink for how stupid it is to just cite someone with a name. Man. Well, you know, J.S. Blumenthal once said that creationism is really, really dumb, and people should stop trying. So I guess by this level of, citation, that's all it takes. I guess creationism is dumb now. I mean, it always was, but...
The rocks more accurately. I don't see how they can't see this. Stratigraphy cannot avoid this kind of reasoning if it insists on using only temporal concepts, because circularity is inherent in the derivation of time scales.
Let's see. This we might actually be able to get. American Journal of Science, Volume 276, 1976, Kent.
Wow.
Okay. That is what I like to call ancient in terms of science, but hey, you know what? Let's go to scholar.google.com. Pragmatism versus materialism in stratigraphy. O'Rourke, which is probably where the other one was from. Okay, there it is. Found it. Oh, well, that's great.
What?
I can get the citation, but the actual website hosting it is no longer available. It just goes to a GoDaddy.com get this domain listing. But let's read the abstract, right? Pragmatic testing reveals that many stratigraphic terms borrowed from the traditional mechanics contain hidden assumptions that raise the suspicion of circular reasoning. For example, material bodies of rock strata are said to be correlated by immaterial time units, but the time units have been abstracted from the geologic column, which is an assembly of material bodies. The radiometric scale has also been calibrated against the geologic column. The term absolute age is contradictory inasmuch as no process can measure itself. Indeed, the use of any time scale involves a degree of circularity because successive intervals cannot be compared and are just assumed to be equal from reference to another scale. Fortunately, geologic time does not enter into the actual work of stratigraphy as it does into experimental science, so a consistent argument is still possible. Stratigraphy should present its case first as a cognitive process from experience, then as a historical process from inference. The first part says that countless senses perceptions of rock features, lithic, organic, and radiometric, have been, well, that's a typo there, but whatever, have been compared as above or below one another by means of maps and selections and synthesized into a geologic column. The second part is the use of this global standard as chronology. So he's not actually arguing that it has to be circular and we can't work it out. He's saying that there are certain assumptions, like, physics, that are built in, and that there are aspects which can seem circular, but that we don't actually have to treat them as circular, and we can disambiguate this. So, yeah, you know what? We'll say that's a Trojan source. We'll go for it. Too Young to Feel the Soul for 1069, nice, US, says, there is a large group of sycophants with far too many participants. They lie and they shill because they think it's God's will, plus they're a huge bag of things in men's pants. Thank you very much. We'll take a drink.
Nice.
Oh, Paleologos seems to have the rest of the quote. But none of that helps in a cow pasture in upstate New York. Long before radioactivity was known to physicists, paleontologists had another way to tell time. Fossils occur in the same vertical sequence throughout the geologic column. The same or closely similar fossils frequently occur in many far-flung localities. Some are even found worldwide. Oh, so he's getting into the logic behind the idea of why index fossils are reasonable. This repetitive pattern of occurrence allows geological-minded paleontologists to correlate rocks are mapped and frequently certain distinctive horizons, such as volcanic ashfalls. And the volcanic ashfall is the important part, right? Because that's where you can get an objective date with actual radiometric dating, which not only is the thing that basically fuels the petrochemical and oil industry, meaning that if it didn't work, it probably wouldn't do that. But it's also something that if you want to contest, you basically have to just contest particle physics, which, hey, good luck. And the ash falls can be traced over great distances, but rocks and isolated quarries can be matched up according to their nature or the fossils they contain. Yeah. Yep. I'm not surprised that that's the context of that, is that it's not a hopeless mess. Funny that you would get that out of that it's not a hopeless mess.
This guy said the charge of circular reasoning can be handled several ways. It can be ignored as not the proper concern of the public. In other words, you can say, well, it's none of your business how we date the rocks. We know what we're doing. We're the professionals.
I mean, to some extent, that is a thing that's reasonably valid, right? Like, if I showed up at CERN saying, like, well, I think you guys should tweak the Large Hadron Collider with my specifications, actually, they'd probably have reasons that would almost certainly go over my head as to why that's dumb and that I should be ignored. And the fact that they go over my head, and will probably go over the heads of everyone here, doesn't really make them wrong about that. Now, does that mean it's impossible for me to learn enough about the Large Hadron Collider or whatever to actually have a good idea? No, not really. But, like, it would probably take a decade or more of intense full-time study for me to get there. And that's not happening anytime soon. And the same is true for geology, right? Like, I know more about geology than the average lay person who isn't a geologist, but I don't know nearly as much as actual geologists do. And so, chances are, I don't actually have anything useful to input into, like, the field of geology that a geologist hasn't thought up yet. Raziel Postus, who's been a member for 6 months and is at the annual level, says, just came to say happy 6 months. Also, have you seen the new Power Rangers tabletop book? It adds orange and purple. Yeah, yes, I have. It does add orange and purple. And also, hey, we got our first Orange Ranger here on the 30th anniversary season, which is a little weird. And also, spoilers, I guess, for Cosmic Fury. There's an Orange Ranger. If you didn't know that by now, I'm sorry, but, like, look, it's only 10 episodes long. They're only, like, 24 minutes an episode. And it's been, like, 4 days. What are you doing? Plenty of time. So, yeah. Anyway, so the thing is that, also, it doesn't really matter that much to the actual work of a geologist if everyone understands the intricacies of what they're doing, especially since people won't. I don't like that attitude among scientists, where it's like, oh, if people have questions, we'll just tell them to just, don't worry about it, we got this. But I understand why it's a reasonable option in some cases. Like, I understand why scientists do it. So.
It can be denied by calling down the law of evolution. It can be admitted as a common practice, or it can be avoided by pragmatic reasoning.
I feel like he palmed the card here in that ellipsis, but I wish I knew where that actual whole quote was.
On page 54.
Yeah, but that's, not that helpful.
No.
Pragmatism in stratigraphy. Because, Haley Logos got it. He managed to figure out where it was, that he could read it. When I searched it on Google Scholar, it only showed up in one place. Oh! Nope, that just goes right back to the GoDaddy link. Come on, man. Give me a help. Okay, that's a DOI. Alright, now I'm going to use my institutional access to DOIs and definitely not go to Sci-Hub. You should not go to Sci-Hub SE to gain access to journal papers and whatnot. That is not okay. Okay, do not do that. It can be... Oh, wait, no, that's not showing up. Oh, great. This is a PDF that's so crazy and old that it's not actually allowing me to search by text. So this is allegedly on page 54. Here's page 51, 52, 3, 4. Let's see. Otherwise, uniform timescale can only be assumed by definition for the simple reason that successful time interval can be compared, blah, 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 read that. Let's see. It can be denied. Yeah, this is not... I can't see this on page 54. This is... He's not... We're taking a drink for Kent not getting the page number right. Alright, Kerry Bronson, who's been a member for 29 months, says, assuming hell is real, Kent's fate will be to listen to people discuss his dissertation for eternity. Ooh. Imagine if he had to just watch the entirety of our 6-part series just on loop for eternity. And he has to pay attention. Yeah, that would suck. So yeah, that's not in there. Let's see. To Just explain. Oh, here it is. Yeah. Let's see. The charge of circular reasoning in stratigraphy can be handled in several ways. It can be ignored as not the proper concern of the public. It can be denied by calling down the law of evolution. Fossils date rock, not vice versa, and that's that. It can be admitted as a common practice. The timescales of physics and astronomy are obtained by comparing one process with another. They can also be compared with the geological processes of sedimentation, organic evolution, and radioactivity. Yeah, that one right there. That's the part that's in the ellipsis. Yeah, that's the part that kind of makes it not very circular there, Kent.
Whoops.
Yeah. We're going to take another drink for Trojan Source, Kent.
Oh, God.
You know, normally I don't actually find the ellipsis, meaning, oh, hey, I skipped over this, to be all that suspicious, because I usually trust people who are citing sources to, not lie. But every time a creationist has an ellipse, I'm like, oh, let's see what's in there, because chances are you palmed a card and I can tell. And that's exactly what happens. It's honestly kind of... It gets really tiring, I'll be honest, right? Because when I first came to the whole idea of I could do counter-creationism YouTube stuff, and I started looking into what YouTube stuff is on... what creationist stuff is on YouTube, and all this stuff, I generally had a pretty positive demeanor about the creationists I was talking about. I assumed that they were doing this in good faith and that they were sincerely misguided. And now I think that almost all of them are just a sack of shit liars. That's just most of them.
Yeah.
They know better. They just don't care. And it's hard to come to any other conclusion with a lot of them. Now, that's not true for all of them, right? I don't think Todd Woods is doing that. I think that he is... sincerely a young Earth creationist for non-evidential reasons, and that he is trying to come up with reasons to make young Earth creationism well-evidenced. And I personally think he's failing, but, Paleologus says that I see the new ARJ paper about feathered turtles. I heard about it. I didn't read it. It didn't sound like something that I would get a whole lot out of, but if you think that I would, then, yeah, send me a link to it. Send it to me on, Shitter or something, and I'll take a look, because it did look a little bit interesting, but ARJ papers are a slog to get through in a way that normal papers just aren't. Mostly because they're mostly nonsense, and there's no peer review, so there's no way for me to trust that they actually have vetted anything. It's quite poorly reasoned. Paleologos. I had assumed so before you told me. I had assumed that, yes. That is not a surprise. Oh, man.
But I'm telling you, it is based on circular reasoning. This,
yeah, except that's not what O'Rourke said. That's just Kent lying. I'm just taking another drink for Kent just blatantly lying to our faces about this. Look, I'm not the one who put an X in front of the Twitter, and made a Xitter, nor am I the guy who invented Pinion, where X is the sh sound. So I'm just telling it like it is.
Larry Azar said, are the authorities maintaining on the one hand that evolution is documented by geology, and on the other that geology is documented by evolution? Isn't this a circular argument?
Kent, you really need to stop ending quotes with question marks, because since you are known to lie about your quotes, I'm now just going to assume that what Larry Azar said after this, that his next word is no. And then he gave reasons, just like O'Rourke did. I'm not even going to check this one. I'm tired of looking into all of these, only to find that Kent is lying to us. Because of course he is.
I like the name of the article. Biologists, help. You need some help, all right. I like to ask evolutionists the question.
Okay.
I say, now, fellas, your geologic column contains limestone, sandstone, shale, sandstone, limestone, limestone.
Yeah, in exactly the sequence that we wouldn't get from a single flood, which of necessity because of how physics works. And I mean basic high school physics. A flood has things ordered from the most hydrodynamic at the bottom, so that's going to be densest, biggest, and to least at the top, which is going to be lightest, smallest grain. So it should go things like heavy conglomerate, followed by sandstone, shale, siltstone, maybe limestone right at the top. Which isn't what we see, but okay. DM Ian Nasir sells Bad Copperwing for $2. Says, turtles, feathered or not, are the best tetrapods. Well, I'm not going to contest it, but I also can't confirm it as a dinosaur myself.
Limestone is scattered throughout there several times. Limestone is used as a building block. You can see me by a big brick building up in Indiana made out of limestone. It's a pretty hard rock, not quite as hard as, concrete, but just about as close.
It is a little bit weird to me that Kent Hovind went to a place and was like, hey man, these stone blocks might be limestone. I don't trust his ability to actually tell. Let's take a picture of me near the limestone. Okay. It's a little odd, but sure. It's not, dumb or anything.
Limestone is obviously made from what's called a sedimentary rock. That means it was deposited out of water.
That is not what it means. Sedimentary...
He said obviously.
Yeah, he did say that. That's true. So, sedimentary has a core word and a prefix bent. You know what the core word is in sedimentary?
Sediment.
It is. Do you know what a sediment is?
You tell me.
Well, it's a thing that comes up actually kind of frequently. It'll come up in beer and winemaking. In that context, it's the little cloudy bits that settle at the bottom of your fermenting vessel. Those are the sediment.
Okay.
So, given that, yeah, it's solid bits, right? That are suspended in something. But does that have to be water?
No.
It can be air, it can be water, it can be alcohol. As long as it can suspend sediments, it can deposit sediments. And it turns out that many sedimentary deposits are in fact deposited by things other than water, like air. Subaerial sedimentation or aeolian sedimentation are both real phenomena. So yeah, it's not all by water. And if you want to say that, hey, what everyone else is describing as subaerial ash layers or as aeolian sandstone is actually submarine ash and submarine sandstone, hey, that's great. Do the work. Let people reproduce your studies. Andrew Stelling has kind of done that, but no one's been able to reproduce his studies who isn't just already a creationist. So it's a little iffy there, because whenever anyone else goes to say the Coconino sandstone, they get measurements that are consistent with Aeolian sandstone. And he's the only person I'm aware of who, one, gets readings or measurements that are consistent with submarine sandstone, and two, seems to think that you can form fossilized raindrops under an ocean in the middle of a flood. I am fascinated to figure out how he's managed to get away with that one, but I am not aware of any paper where he actually addresses that problem in particular. Now, for $5, Ask the Spacefaring Homo erectus Ryu says, I know you can't confirm if turtles are the best tetrapod, but a lot of people saying it here and all are also tetrapods. It's a good, like Godzilla, we'll take a drink for Godzilla. No, it's a good point, yeah, a lot of the people here who are saying that they're the best tetrapods are themselves tetrapods. And Catherine, and I'm going to say Caneep, and I'm not positive it might be Canape. Let me know if I get it wrong, but I'm hoping that I got it right. For $5, which is their first super chat on the channel, thank you very much, says, me and my 12 siblings were homeschooled. That's a lot of siblings. That's how many my grandmother had. Watched Kent and have lifetime passes to the Creation Museum. I love your vids now. Also, AIG is a BOD. Yes. Thank you very much. We'll take a drink. Well, look, I'm really happy that you're enjoying this. Look, Bent and I are both former Young Earth creationists. Virtually all of my guests on my channel have been former Young Earth creationists. So, Vishanti was a Young Earth creationist. I've had Erica from Guts of Gibbon on a fair few times. She's a former Young Earth creationist. Yeah, so you are in good company. And let me know if I got your surname wrong. Just tag me, and I'll try to get it right. DM Ian Nasir sells Bad Copperwing for $2. Says, people are saying turtles are the best tetrapod. It's true, it is being said by people. I wonder what the turtles think. They probably just want food.
Made from sediment. Like if the bottom of a mud puddle hardened into a rock, that would be sedimentary rock.
Yes, kind of. It would have to lithify, but that's okay. Also, fits of intercontinental ballistic volcano ray just gifted 1 Dapper Dinosaur membership, which went to Chaz Sirius. There you go. I had a little hiccup there. I might have been having too much of this Kraken and cola. Impossible. Take a drink. Okay. Thank you very much.
Made from sediments. Limestone is obviously, as a matter of fact, the whole geologic column is made of sedimentary rock.
What? Bent, do you remember back in high school when you learned the 3 main types of rock?
Not at the high school I went to.
Okay, well, maybe you don't.
Not at the YEC high school I went to.
Did you ever learn the 3 main types of rock?
Let's see. You've got igneous
Mm-hmm.
and metamorphic.
Mm-hmm. And sedimentary.
Sedimentary.
Now, how many of those are sedimentary?
Just one.
And how many of them are found in the geologic column?
All 3?
Yeah.
Guessed right.
So what do you think? Is Kent being truthful when he says that the entire sedimentary column, or sorry, geologic column is sedimentary? No.
Of course not.
Like, I used to live in Massachusetts, and holy crap, is there a lot of granite there. And that is not a sedimentary rock. You ever seen obsidian?
Yes.
Not a volcanic rock. You ever see feldspar?
No.
Also not sedimentary. But yeah, like there's just so many non-sedimentary rocks that it's hard to even imagine how Kent can say that with a straight face. And just, I mean, he's a dishonest piece of crap, so that's how, right? Like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
I like to ask him the question, how do you tell the difference between 100-million-year-old limestone and 600-million-year-old limestone?
So it's going to depend in a few different ways. So limestone, if it's organic limestone, which a lot of it is, you can actually look at the fossils in there and correlate them to similar fossils elsewhere in areas that have been radiometrically dated with, like, sort of bracketing igneous rocks, right? So if it's especially important that it usually be extrusive rather than intrusive, because intrusive igneous rock can break into older sediments, but extrusive, because it's on the surface, has to be on top of older rocks. So if you can find fossils that you can correlate with sandstone that has been dated with igneous extrusions that bracket it to a certain age range, then you can say that. If it's not organic, you still might be able to correlate it, but generally speaking, you have to refer to radiometric studies that have been done using things like ash layers, basalt flows, obsidian, whatever, right? Various kinds of extrusive, rhyolite, I guess, maybe. Yeah, rhyolite, which is just like the extrusive form of the intrusive granite. All those are options for things that you could radiometrically test and see how old sandstone is. But just looking at it with your eyes, no microscope, not knowing where it came from, you really can't. It's true. You can't really.
If I handed you a piece of limestone and said, how old is it, how would you know?
I mean, I just described what I might be able to do, but really I would hand it to a geologist who studies sandstone and see if limestone, to see if, he or she could tell me where it was probably from, which would then let me know. Also, Too Young to Feel This Old just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. Thank you very much. And let's see who got them. Logan Fisher, Alia Jane, Trudy Stubbs, C. Nedra, and Cool Jesus. Or is it Cool Jesus? We may never know. Let's take some drinks. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Which actually reminds me, recently on Twitter, I found someone unironically sharing a how did Jesus find people named like Peter, Paul, Simon, and like whatever in the Middle East, unironically. And I'm just like, that is one of the dumbest things I have ever seen. And there were so many people who were just doubling and tripling down on this being a really good and unanswerable question. Because they've never heard of actual native English names like Athelbert or just Eric. They probably heard of that one. But like, when was the last time you've been Athelbert?
Never.
Yeah. But names like Simon and Peter and John, those are from the Bible. That's how English got them in the first place. It was some of the dumbest things. Anyway, Hank says for $6.66 dues, not dollars, says Kent Hogrind is the Donald Trump of creationism. That's it. That's the tweet. I'll say this. Kent Hovind has been convicted of more felonies, but found liable for less adult assault. We'll call it that. He's also never faced as many felony charges as Donald Trump is currently facing. So, yeah. Nor has he ever had his company dissolved in... Well, I guess he's had his entire ministry dissolved in, like, Florida, so that's pretty even. Although I will say Kent Hovind has a body count of at least 1. As far as I know... oh, that's not fair. No, Trump has a much higher body count. He's a POTUS, or he was a POTUS. They all have gigantic body counts. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, every POTUS has a body count that if anyone else had it, we would consider them an absolute monster. Which is why I generally just don't like POTUSes. They kill too many people. I mean, it's one of the reasons. Asta Spacefaring Homo Erectus Ryu, there you go, for $2 says, I prefer sheet. AIG is a bag of dicks all in the IPA, which I appreciate. Guys, if you don't know the International Phonetic Alphabet, you should work on that. It is great. I do have actually a couple of videos about it. So, there you go. Also, I'm now acquainted with Agma Schwaz, runs a channel by that name. Check him out for lots of cool linguistics content, because while I do occasionally have some linguistic stuff, that's his whole channel is about linguistics, conlangs, cursed conlangs. He did a video on Ultra French that was... I don't even know how to describe it, but I both hated and loved it extremely highly all at the same time.
They're both limestone, same kind of rock.
Yeah, because all limestone is identical, Ken. I'm just taking a drink. That's not how geology works.
Well, there's only one way they can tell the difference, that is by the index fossils.
I mean, that's one way.
If your limestone contains a dinosaur bone, well, then it's 70 million year old Jurassic limestone.
That's not when the Jurassic period ended, Kent. That's right in the Cenozoic. That's right towards the Paleo. That's in the Paleogene. I'm taking a drink for Paleogene dinosaur limestone. Further, dinosaurs are not often preserved in limestone. It's not the most common place to find them. Because limestone tends to be marine and dinosaurs didn't live in the ocean, so most fossils in limestone are marine. Also, dinosaurs are not an index fossil for anything, as far as I can tell. I've never heard of any dinosaur ever being used as an index fossil. Usually what's used are things like tiny little algae. In fact, if you found a dinosaur fossil, and it was in what would otherwise be determined to be Paleogene rocks, and here I mean non-avian dinosaur, what you would do is not reassign the age of that rock. You would note that you found a late surviving dinosaur, and that would be big news. Let's see. Too Young to Feel Sold says, ever watch Rob Words, Lost Linguistics and Histories of Words? Cool stuff. I don't think I have. That does sound good, though. Captain Rider it's doing some conlanging with a conlang called Alanic from a Iranic tribe. Interesting, influenced by Germanic and Slavic languages. Well, that is an interesting hodgepodge of different layers of Indo-European linguistics. So that does sound interesting. All right, here we go.
However, if it contains a trilobite, it's going to be 600 million year old Cambrian limestone.
Again, while individual trilobite species can be used as index fossils, trilobites as a whole extended throughout the entire Paleozoic, and so are not a good index fossil, because what you need for an index fossil is worldwide distribution and a very narrow vertical extent, right? The narrower, the better, because you want this to be able to tell you exactly when something is. So You want something that's very widespread, but was only very widespread for a very short amount of time. And that doesn't work for most trilobite species, never mind all of them. All trilobites lasted for basically from 30 million years into the Cambrian till the end of the Permian. That's too much time for them to be a reasonable index fossil as a whole. Kent is just making up examples. And he's making up bad examples, right? Like dinosaur. It's a huge group. And by the way, there are dinosaur fossils that are 2 million years old. There are dinosaur skeletons outside right now that just died. Dinosaur doesn't tell you much except late Triassic on.
They date the rocks based on the fossils they find in it.
Nope. They use the index fossils as a guideline and use radiometric dating to get objective ages.
Here's a trilobite. I've got a bunch of them in my office there. This textbook says, matter of fact, my textbook might be right here. If not, it's in my office there. Okay. He says, trilobite fossils.
Yes. A 1989 book for children that is going to dumb things down to the point of just being wrong. Because kids probably can't be trusted to know to understand the exact nuances, which means, yeah, great, you found a kid's book saying trilobite fossils make good index fossils. Do they just mean any trilobite ever? Well, no, probably not. Because that's just not true. But kids probably aren't going to be interested in like the minutiae of different like genera of trilobites and their geological extent. Asked a spacefaring Homo erectus Ryu for $10 says, I'm also making a conlang which is based quite heavily on Indonesian that is called Rokodong, because I didn't realize English speakers would make an AIG reference. I did not see that coming. Nice, we'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much. I don't know nearly enough about Indonesian that I could make a conlang based on it, but that sounds really cool. That would be pretty neat. Let's see. AIG is a big bag of Kent Hovind, says Silent Tetrapod with a Godzilla emoji, so we'll take a drink for that. Thank you very much. Which actually puts me out of drink in time for us to take a quick break. That's pretty convenient, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'll give a quick little thing about like Patreon and join the channel and helping the channel out and whatnot. We'll get right back into it. And we are more than halfway towards getting another tutu next week.
Rock on.
We need about $127.
Nice.
And we'll be there. So who knows? We might actually get there. All right. We will see you back in just a few minutes. And in the meantime, listen to the musical stylings of one Bent Hovind, who's right there wearing a tutu.
That's me. Yeah.
And we are back. Welcome back, Bent.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to be back.
It is good to be back. Thank you for everyone who's stuck with us, which is almost everyone. Wow. And hey, we have 72 likes and 105 viewers. Not bad. I'd like to see those likes go a little bit higher, but you are safe from the horrors of being Bilbo'd. So there is that. Now that we're back, I want to go really quick into my little commercial spiel. Like, guys, this channel is entirely supported by you guys. You have made it possible for me to have a comfortable life doing this pretty much full-time plus, right? Like Bent knows, I do more than 40 hours of work on this channel every week.
Definitely more.
And I love it. But you guys are what makes it possible. Silent Tetrabot for $20 says, how many trilobites can a trilobite bite if a trilobite could bite trilobites? Anything for a tutu. The answer is 4. There you go. That's the I just made that up. Cookies Right for $5 with their first super chat for the channel. Thank you very much. Says to Tuesday today and next Tuesday, and popping my YouTube super cherry. Request your best Kentenheimer impression of water. Okay, that's probably about as good as I got. Really, if you want to get the water. Okay. I'm
water.
Yeah. It's an evolutionist thing. It's very silly. Really, if you want a good Kentenheimer impression, you got to talk to Dr. Josh from Digital Hammurabi. Josh Bowen. Yeah, he's really the one to talk to. But yeah, so this channel is very much viewer supported, right? I get very little directly from YouTube in terms of things like ads being played. In part because, well, I mean, YouTube's just not that great for that. But also because you guys are just reliably here for me, and I appreciate that. And if you're not currently helping out, but you'd like to, or you'd like to step up the degree to which you're doing that, there are some great ways. The first one is Patreon. I would like to see if I can get to 100 patrons by the end of the month. I'm at 95. I only need 5 of you who aren't currently patrons, which there's definitely at least that many, because there's more than 5 more people than I have as patrons watching. So even if all my patrons are watching, that means that at least 12 of you aren't patrons. So there you go. I know that there's enough. Go there, get like for just $1 a month or $10 a year. That's the minimum. You can get access to months and months of early access videos, special Discord server. If you go more than $1 or $10 a year, you can get your name in the credits. There's more perks as you go up. I really appreciate Patreon. For one thing, they only take 10% of my income rather than YouTube's 30%. But also, there's the channel memberships. If you're not a channel member, you haven't been gifted one, or if you have been gifted one before, but it expired and you want to keep that up, there's a join button below this channel. It has pretty much all the same perks, access to the special Discord server, months and months of early access videos. That Discord server, by the way, is a place where it's very easy to contact me. I'm there most of the time. And so, yeah, it's pretty great. Now, if a monthly or an annual thing isn't your deal, that's not what you want to do, there's a merch store linked in the description. There's also Amazon wish lists for both me and Bent linked in the description. So yeah, feel free to help out if you want to in that way. And if you don't, that's okay too. Please just like these videos and share them. But with that, we're going to get back into the Kent.
Okay.
Make good index fossils. If a trilobite, such as this one, is found in a rock layer, the rock layer was probably formed 500 to 600 million years ago.
So like I said, this is talking about individual species of trilobites can be good index fossils. Trilobites as a group do not constitute an index fossil as a group. Just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, now why do they think trilobites indicate the rock is 500 million years old?
They don't. That's literally just not a thing. I'm just taking a drink. Kent, textbooks for babies from 20 years before you gave this speech are going to tell you things that are, 1, out of date, and 2, simplified to the point where, sure, maybe you can understand it, Kent, because we all know that your highest educational achievement is, I don't even think it's high school, actually. I'm pretty sure you went to a scam high school, and then you went to 2 different scam colleges, which is kind of amazing. So, at best, though, high school. Which means you do need books for babies. And given the intellectual prowess evinced by Kentenheimer in his dissertation, or thesis, or whatever we're calling that thing, yeah, like, clearly this is not a man who is working with all of the normal brain power that you would associate with the typical 16-year-old. Yeah, I'm sure he needs books for babies. But yeah, that's not how the real world operates. So, yeah.
Well, because they started with the assumption that trilobites evolved first.
What? Trilobites evolved first. There you go, guys. The first life form on Earth was a trilobite. I'm just taking a drink. Forget bacteria. Forget archaea. Forget single-celled eukaryotes, like single-celled epistoconts and whatnot. Amoebozoans. Single-celled algae. No, it was trilobites.
Trilobites evolved first.
They weren't even the first
animal first.
Trilobites don't show up until stage 3 of the Cambrian. That's 30 million years into the Cambrian, before which we already had many other species of organisms, including the whole Ediacaran biota, like Charnia discus and Kimberella and all those fun guys. Not fungi in the sense of, fungi. What it does, you get it. You get it. You all get it.
I get it. I get it.
Oh my goodness. Vishanti with the key. Yeah, that was definitely a mega stupid key. Holy crap. I'm taking a second drink. I can't handle that one. Okay, there it is. I've cooled my brain down a little bit.
See, the oldest...
Oh, my unfinished channel, who's been a member for 7 months and is at the amniote level, says, Trilobite, you might like it. Nice.
Life form, according to their thinking, is supposed to be 600 million years old. Well, if trilobites came first, we have a real problem. Here's a human shoe print where a guy has stepped on a trilobite.
I don't believe it.
Okay, well, first, do you notice what this citation is?
Bob Jones, Earth Science.
Yeah, you know what Bob Jones is, or who Bob Jones is?
No.
He's the one who started the Bob Jones University. The university that only recently allowed interracial dating among their students.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's a creationist. Now, this interpretation of this, ultimately, like, I've seen most of the creationists who cite this actually end up sourcing it ultimately from Pravda, which is a little bit of a weird source for creationists to cite, given the fact that most creationists are pretty stridently anti-communist. And then they were like, yeah, but we should totally use the Soviet Union's old propaganda mouthpiece magazine as our source for this. So, what's actually happening here? We do have a trilobite. But do we have a boot or a sandal? Well, we have a depression, but it's only boot-shaped if you decide to complete the shape as a boot. But it could be anything, right? We don't actually know what the shape of this depression originally was. Further, Ben, can you think of anything heavy that might cause a depression in some sedimentary rock, hundreds of millions of years ago that isn't a boot?
Like a rock?
Yeah, like a rock. Exactly.
I don't think they were around.
No, there were no rocks apparent. So, what makes this a shoe print? There's no tread. There's no anatomical detail of a human foot. It doesn't even seem to have an arch on, like, a concave arch. Like, it has the convex arch at the bottom there. Where's the concave arch that you would associate with most human footwear? Nowhere. Let's see. Humans are like penis worms, but worse for the globe. Knee, for $2, says, Eddie O'Cairn was a fine Irish lad. Godzilla, thank you very much. DM, Luca was a trilobite confirmed way. For $2 says, Sham High School. That explains a lot. Yeah, it really does. I mean, to be fair, Ben, you kind of went to a sham high school too.
Kind of.
So, You can break out of that. It doesn't have to define you.
It won't.
But yeah, like there's no reason to call this a footprint other than pareidolia. And pareidolia is a really bad basis for science. So, yeah, that's how you get to like Mud Fossil University.
Now, according to their thinking, humans didn't get here till 3 million years ago. They didn't start wearing shoes till about 10,000 years ago.
I have no idea at what point humans first started putting stuff on their feet to protect their feet. 10,000 years ago, maybe.
So how can you have a human shoe print
Which, again, we have no evidence that we do.
on top of a trilobite? Now, some have tried to argue that this is not a shoe print, it's a natural break in the shale.
Or maybe it's depression caused by a rock.
This kind of rock, called shale, splits very easily.
That's true. We'll take a drink. That's the first true thing that I've heard Kent say.
It's about time.
Let's see. Savage Answers in Yahweh says, that's from a Bob Jones University Press textbook. My middle/high school used some of their editions of that one. It's one of the many claims with little basis in reality. Yeah, I'm not surprised that Bob Jones University Press published textbooks with complete and utter nonsense in them. Yeah. Again, I'll remind you, they only recently got rid of their miscegenation bylaws. Yeah. It took until, like, I think the early 2000s before Bob Jones University was like, I guess you can have a white student dating a black student and we won't expel you. Yeah, that's the kind of thing we're working with here. I'll be honest, if I were a hiring manager and I saw someone with a degree from Bob Jones University, I'd be like, all right, next.
Going in the trash. That resume.
Yeah, that's right in the trash. Same thing with Loma Linda University. Not for the same reasons, but for other reasons.
And they say this is just a natural break, that's not really a shoe print. Well, Mr. Meister from Carnes, Utah, who found it, took it to quite a few geologists. The Dr. H.H. Doling of Utah's Geological Survey certified it is not a fake. Reader's Digest, Mystery of the Unexplained talks about this.
What does it mean for it to be a fake? Right? Because saying it's not a shoe print isn't the same thing as saying it's fake. Fake means that someone intentionally altered this specimen to make it look like a shoe. I don't think that's anyone's contention. I don't think that's what happened. I've never heard of anyone claiming that this supposed shoe print trilobite, which I've heard of before, by the way, is a fake in the sense that someone carved it. But the question is it a shoe print or not? And the options aren't yes and hoax. There are other options. In fact, hoax wasn't even one of the ones that people normally think of first. Vishanti's got a double bingo. Hey, let me know when you guys have blackouts. Humans are like penis worms, but worse for the planet. And or worse for the Earth. Says for $2, Mothra. So we'll take a drink for Mothra. Thank you very much. Trilobite moccasins. I've been walking in. Nice. And Savage Answers in Yahweh for $5 says, I went to Liberty University and some people at my high school thought I was too progressive. No true Christian progressive. Oof, man. I imagine that being too progressive at Liberty University is a pretty low bar. Like, my goodness. Yeah. For those of you who might not be in the US and don't know about these universities, they're basically just really far right Christian universities that don't have a whole lot of respect for things like science or scholarship or evidence. Yeah. Sam Talbert, who's been a member for 11 months and is at the annual level, says, I appreciate everything you do here. Well, thank you. I appreciate that you appreciate it. And yeah, hashtag no true Christian. Yeah, that's the new name of the fallacy, by the way, because it is trivially easy to find people who are like, well, that guy's not a real Christian. Okay, cool.
A human shoe print smashed on top of a trilobite, on top of a smashed trilobite.
Actually, I'm not positive that trilobite is smashed, but also rocks would do that. So, again, Rock's work. Carrie Bronson for $5 says, said it before, saying it again. People like Kent just can't count to 3 and can't conceive of anything but strict dichotomy. Yeah, basically.
Would indicate trilobites and humans lived at the same time. Which I could have told them. The Bible says God made everything in 6 days. Some people say maybe aliens visited the planet. That's what happened.
That's the bit from Pravda. Let's see if
600
that's what he
million years
cites.
ago, aliens came down here.
I don't know why the alien is wearing cowboy boots. They definitely weren't wearing, like, the actual fossil definitely wasn't cowboy boots, because cowboy boots have things like, a significant difference in height between the heel and the foot, which would have an obvious, very obvious height difference. Also, they tend to have tread, which neither of which were evident. But it is a rather amusing alien. I like the elephant trunk and the weird little antennae.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Ears.
yeah, the big ears are fun.
Skinny
They actually remind
fingers.
me of those the fat Buddha statues with the really big earlobes.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. Hillhugger, who's been a member for 13 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, squash trilobite between one's toes is never fun. True. Yeah, for one thing, they're sharp. Those shells are made of rock.
One guy said maybe a large trilobite shaped like a shoe fell on a small one.
I've never heard of anyone saying that. But also, maybe the aliens thing is, again, Kent quoting someone who was mocking the idea. They were mocking the idea of this being a footprint at all. This was not a serious suggestion. This was mockery of the idea that Kent is proposing, that it was a shoe. So, I don't know why Kent thinks that referencing the person mocking him as if that was a legitimate position that people held is helping his case, but it's not.
Well, there are some big trilobites, I'll admit, but they're not shaped like a shoe.
Neither was the Depression, as far as we know. It might have been shaped by a shoe. We don't know that, because we don't have the whole Depression.
Peter's got the best explanation. The scoffers in the last days are willingly ignorant of the flood. Probably trilobites dwell at the bottom of the ocean.
I mean, yeah, most of them probably, although the bottom of the ocean might also just be, near shore tide pools, but sure.
Go through the mud down there or something. And they do have gills.
Kent, you would not recognize a trilobite gill. So first, he's right. They do have gills, or they did have gills. I don't know, whatever. Trilobite gills actually come off of a split in their legs. Their legs actually have, they're like forked, right? And the top fork actually has gill fronds, and the bottom fork is used for walking. And this is actually the default character for arthropod legs. But virtually every group of arthropods has evolved away from this. And some of them have legs that are specialized for gills, like most decapods, which have gill legs in their under their abdomen, right? So if you look at like the underside of a lobster, you notice how like around the thorax, it's got these walking legs with little hooked claws at the end and whatnot. But then when you get to the abdomen, it's got these plate-like appendages with lots of like filamentous structures. Those are a combination of gill and swimming appendage that are also derived from the bifurcated leg of the ancestral arthropod. Fate to Grey, Trilobite Primogenesis, who's been a member for 60 months, says, Kent's ignoring the obvious truth that there was an ancient war between trilobites and time travelers. And then there's a Kent and a Godzilla emoji, so we'll take a drink for that. Border Barbecue, who's been a member for 10 months and at the amniote, says, Mothra, to which we take a drink. It says, praise pelagic tunicates. Wall? No, do not praise the pelagic tunicates. Pelagic tunicates are the worst. Horseflesh for $4.99 starts with a Godzilla, so we take a drink. Godzilla wishes he could look as good as Bent in a tutu. It's true. And if you want to... Yeah. I mean, you could say...
I know how
you're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And by the way, we are now 74 away from another tutu.
From a repeat tutu.
We could do it.
I think so.
Let's see. Humans are like penis worms, but worse for the earth. Nee, for $2, says, Popes only true Christians any given year. Ghidorah. What about those years when there was like 6 popes? DM, Luca was a Trilobite confirmed wing, says, make it rain money for $2. Thank you very much. So, alright, let's continue on.
For living in water. And probably during the time of the flood, the crust of the earth is flexing back and forth, and what used to be the bottom of the ocean is now above sea level. And people are running across.
Wait, no, I thought the entire world was underwater, covering the highest mountains, Kent. Like, you gotta pick, man. Either the world wasn't completely covered in water, and the Bible is wrong, according to you, when you say that it says it was, or you can't have surface trilobites getting stepped on in the middle of the flood, Kent. Like, come on, man. This is just basics of, like, are you taking your hermeneutical, frameworks and the interpretations that they give you of the Bible seriously or not? Apparently the answer for Kent is no. Humans are like penis worms, but worse for the earth. Nee, for $2, says, Viking blood eagles are proof of human flight. Okay. Carrie Bronson for $2 says, Godzilla, I hardly know you. Thank you very much. Alright, here we go. If I can find my stupid mouse cursor. There it is.
Across this area trying to find a mountain to keep out of the water. And somebody stepped on a trilobite, which before had been at the bottom of the ocean. Trilobite eyes are incredibly complicated.
That's actually pretty true. We'll take a drink. Trilobites have really weird, cool eyes. At least when they have eyes. Not all of them did.
This Science News back in 1974 said that trilobite eyes have the most sophisticated eye lenses ever produced by nature. Well,
I don't know about that. I feel like eagles probably have better eye lenses than trilobites, but trilobites did have pretty cool lenses. In fact, because they were actually biominerals made of calcite, the actual trilobite fossils often contain the original eye lens material, because calcite doesn't really decay, right? It can get crushed or whatever. So we can actually investigate the optical properties of trilobite lenses from actually studying the real biomineralized lens itself, which is just really cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
So humans are like penis worms, but worse for the earth. Nee, for $2, says, Godzilla, 6 popes equals 6 true Christians. Well, there you go. Even though they all disagreed with each other over who was the real pope? Also, there's more than one pope now. They're just not all Catholic. Shout out to Pope Tawadros. Okay, now I have to double check. Is it Pope Tawadros? I was about to say Pope Shenouda, but I'm pretty sure he died. Tawadros II. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's who I'm talking about. Yep, Pope Tawadros II. 118th and current Pope of Alexandria and the Patriarch of the See of St. Mark, succeeding the late Pope Shenouda III as leader of the Coptic Orthodox Church of Alexandria. Took office on 18 November 2012. There you go. Which also, if you want to actually find some Christians who are actually being severely oppressed, go take a look at his guys. Because, geez, is it rough being a Copt in Egypt. A lot rougher than being a fundamentalist evangelical Protestant in the United States. Trust me.
I disagree. They said they were produced by God. But the trilobite eye sometimes will have 1,500 lenses, which means he could actually see all directions at the same time.
That does not follow. Jeez, I'm taking a drink. If all the lenses are arranged in less than all directions, then that's not what that means. Like, this isn't the case, but hypothetically, you could have all 1,500 lenses pointing straight ahead. That doesn't mean you can see all around. Also, you could have many fewer lenses, but arranged in some kind of a sphere, and then you could see all around. That's just not how anything works, Kent. Humans are like penis worms, but worse for the earth. Nee, for $2, says, Mothra, but where are the eyes? Yeah. Talk to Randy Galuza about that. Where are the eyes, Randy?
Where are the eyes?
Yeah, curious that we don't have eyes, Randy. We get a tan, but no eyes, Randy.
He can see behind him and see above him and see around him. all at the same time. Even Stephen Gould says the eyes of the early trilobites have never been exceeded for complexity or acuity.
Again, I'm going to have to go ahead and say eagles, but sure. Whatever. Maybe... I mean, look, that's Gould's take. I disagree with Gould on most things, so I guess it's not a surprise that I disagree with him on this, too.
Well, now, if they're the first animal to evolve, or
which they're not, Ken. We're taking another drink. Jesus. No one has ever proposed. We know of animals from millions and millions of years earlier than trilobites. Gee, they're not even at the beginning of the Cambrian. Oh, man. I hate this so much right now. If trilobites are the first animal to evolve, yeah, Kent, if.
one of the first.
One of the first, thanks. Which, again, they're not.
Don't you find it kind of interesting? They've got the most complicated eye in the world.
No, I don't, actually. I mean, I do, but not for the reasons that you think, which is like, well, how could evolution do this? Because there have been studies done on how quickly evolution can evolve eyes from no eyes. And the answer is like less than 1 million years is what it takes if there's sufficient selection pressure. And how long did it take the trilobites to evolve from the beginning of the Cambrian till when they show up in stage 3? Oh, right. 30 million years. They've had time to evolve eyes at least, what, a few thousand times over? Yeah, that's not impressive. I mean, it is impressive in one way, right? But it's not impressive in the way that Kent wants it to be.
There might be some animals like trilobites still alive. I talked
If he shows those isopods,
Of course.
I swear.
to Joe Taylor today at Mount Blanco Museum in Texas. They've got a great display of fossil trilobites, including many that are found in the folded position. What happens when a trilobite dies? It folds up.
No, that's going to be a citation. Folding was a defensive posture adopted by some trilobites. Yeah, and as Cross-Platform Adventures points out, the earliest trilobites did not have the most complex eyes, too. Yeah, trilobite eye complexity increased over time.
Or rolls up. How many have seen the little bugs we have here in Florida? They roll.
Oh my god, yeah, it's just giant isopods. Jeez. Kent, they don't have the 3 lobes, for one thing, which is kind of the point of being a tri-lobe-ite. You have the 3 lobes, you have the one in the center, and then you have the 2 on the sides. They don't. That's not a pygidium, I can tell you that for certain, which is what trilobites have. Their eyes are in the wrong place. They don't have the right parts of the cephalon, because again, these aren't trilobites. They don't even have a cephalon. These are crustaceans, which is a group of mandibulates, whereas trilobites were either stem chelicerates or actual chelicerates. We're not sure. These isopods have uniramous legs, which means they don't branch into 2 like trilobites did, which have biramous legs. Let's see. Isopod mouths face forward. Trilobite mouths faced back. Let's see. These guys have dedicated gill limbs towards the anterior. That's what's actually under that little abdomen section, or not abdomen. Abdomen section. That's what I'm talking about. The little back end shield thing. Yeah, that's what's under there is actual gill legs, which again trilobites didn't have because all of their legs were both legs and gills. They also lack the posterior sensory organs, these Circe type organs that trilobites had, but that obviously this guy doesn't because, again, it's an isopod, not a trilobite. The only way to think that this is a trilobite is if you don't know anything about trilobites. And given that this is the guy who called himself Dr. Dino for decades, and then when I asked him what a dinosaur is, he didn't frickin' know, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he also doesn't know that this, or he also doesn't know what a trilobite is. And as Savage answers in Yahoo Scarborough points out, where are the lobes? Yeah, they aren't there.
Whoa.
I hate
That
this
doesn't
so
look
much.
at all like a trilobite.
It really doesn't.
Not even to me, and that's saying something.
All right. Goodness. Freaking isopods.
Up, like call them
I
a
think he
roly-poly.
listed 8 reasons.
You know, little
Did I? That
I think
sounds
you
about
listed
right.
8 reasons why it's not a trilobite.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I lost count.
Around pill bug, they're called. As soon as you touch them, they roll up. Looks like a little BB. You know what I'm talking
Kent, that's the same argument as arguing that armadillos are trilobites, right? It rolls up.
Yeah.
I guess hedgehogs, pangolins, those are trilobites too. Why not, right? Sure, they're mammals. Who cares? This is a mandibulate. That's not a trilobite. Yeah, they're all just trilobites.
about the little gray things? Yeah, called a pill bug. Trilobites do that also. When they get scared, they roll up,
Some of them were able to do that. Not all of them.
so their shell protects them on all sides. Many trilobites are found fossilized, flattened out. Some are found fossilized, rolled up. Many
That's true. Take a drink. I'm going to run out of this drink.
millions are
good.
found fossilized
Or is it great? I know what would make me run out of this drink really fast, though.
halfway. They started to roll up and died.
30 gift subs.
Now think about it.
Yeah.
Mount Blanco Museum has a display of trilobites where there's 2 of them that are laid out flat like they're walking. The one in front of them is halfway rolled up.
Okay.
Something caught them in a catastrophe happened.
Sounds like a marine slump, which is basically just the marine version of a landslide. Do you have evidence, Kent, that it was actually a flood other than that looks like something caught them unawares? Because there's other things than worldwide floods that can do that. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say, yeah, probably not. Probably he doesn't. So, yeah.
Probably an incredible water temperature change during the time of the flood. You'd have the fountains of the Great Deep breaking open.
What? How do you get to temperature change, Kent? How? What is the connection between something probably happened suddenly to these trilobites to it must have been a temperature change? What is the connection there? Do you see one, Bent?
Guessing. He's guessing.
Yeah, just guess. I'm just taking a drink for just random nonsense. I'm trying really hard to keep my language on the friendly side of YouTube. It's really not easy right now.
You're doing a good job.
Thanks.
Hot water's
Keep it up.
rushing into certain areas, killing these animals before they can even think of what's going on. Because
Well, they have pretty small brains. They probably weren't thinking much anyway.
they don't even have time to curl up. They just die in the flattened out position.
Except for that one that did have time to partially curl up, I guess.
This
Not
rock
something
is
about
called
that one.
it contains a fossil called a Graptolite. Now the Graptolite is the New York state fossil. Every one of the 50 states has a state bird, a state flower, and a state fossil.
I don't remember if that's true. I don't care.
Graptolite is from New York, just north of Pennsylvania, Becky. I don't know what Pennsylvania's fossil is. Would you know that? You lived there. You don't know? Okay. This rock is supposed to be 410 million years old. Now this means if you find a rock and it contains a graptolite, the professor will date it at being 410 million years old.
That is not what that means. Not even a little bit. They're actually known from the middle through the lower middle Cambrian through the lower Carboniferous, which means they lived for a very long time. And they are a colonial group of organisms. And no, they are not used as a whole as an index fossil, just like trilobites aren't, just like dinosaurs aren't. It's not like, oh, Graptolite. The entire, what is it, a class? I think it's like a class. It's like saying mammals is an index fossil. If you find a mammal, you know it's from this period. No one does that. It's not how that ever works. Jillian is not a breatharian. Jillian Wren, sorry, is not a breatharian for $2 says, for not using grown-up words, $2. Thank you. I do appreciate it. It's a struggle right now. This is worse than normal, I think. I don't know. And also Savage Glyptodont Trilobites Cobra. Oh my god, that's great. For $2 says, Kent Hovind is the Alabama state fossil. Oh, yeah, that's really good. And hey, we're down to like 58 until we get until you have to wear another tutu, or the same tutu, but you have to wear it again.
Right.
I don't think you're gonna buy a second tutu for this.
No.
But what if you could get a red tutu?
I'll put it on my Amazon wish list.
There you go. All right, here we go.
Not because he knows how old the rock is, but because he knows it contains a graptolite, and they're supposed to have lived 410 million years ago.
Again, no, but we covered it.
Index fossils determine the age of the rocks.
DM Luca was Trilobite confirmed wing for $2 says, the bunny is the index fossil of the Cambrian. Pretty sure that's inaccurate, but what do I know?
Well, this was all working fine until 1993, when they found graptolites are still alive in the South Pacific.
Oh, yeah?
Well, now hold it. If they're
I'm really anxious for the citation, because I'm not aware of any extant graptolites. But it would be very interesting.
still alive, maybe that means they could live in any rock layer.
I mean, no, because, I mean, they would still have to live in areas that were conducive to their biology, which wouldn't be literally everywhere. Like, what if it's a lava flow, Kent? You think graptolites were living in lava flows? I'm pretty sure they weren't. I mean, they were marine invertebrates. So, no. Let's see. Hollyhock has been a member for 5 months and is at the annual level and says, I feel like Kent is being extra stupid for my birthday. Sorry, everyone. Well, first, happy birthday. And yeah, it does seem like that. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. By the way, everything I can find is saying that graptolites are extinct. I can't find anything saying that there are extant graptolites. Yeah.
Maybe he'll have a source.
That means they were probably alive 1,000 years ago, didn't it? And
Maybe
5,000 and 10,000 and 50,000.
I mean, it would mean that.
So maybe all the dating we've done of rock layers based on index fossils is baloney. And it is. Didn't happen. The textbook says
Oh, wait. I do have something from 2017, which is after this, saying that we do actually have a few living graptolites. Which, okay. Cool. We might actually have some living graptolites. This is
Checkmate evolution.
from Jorg Malitz on Wiley Online. Let's see. Thought to be long extinct, a few living graptolites and their extinct relatives have been quite recently by paleontologists through logistic analysis. Not that the extant graptolites were overlooked, but the connection has never been made between fossil graptolites and their modern descendants. Okay, cool. But again, graptolites being something that is known in the fossil record from the Cambrian through into the was it Devonian, I said? Anyway, it's longer than you could use them as a group, as an index fossil. But also remember, index fossils are actually species, right? So if you say, oh, hey, this one species of graptolite is a index fossil for this band of like 5 million years, the fact that we now know of extant graptolites of a different species doesn't negate the use of that species as an index fossil. Index fossils don't have to belong to taxa that are wide taxa that are extinct, right? If you could find a rodent that was a good index fossil, the fact that there are extant rodents doesn't mean that that species is a bad index fossil. Species are index fossils, not wide classes of organisms.
fish with lobe-finned.
Okay.
Now, you'll need to know this one, a lobe-finned fish. What that means is it's got a little short arm and then a fin. So what is a lobe-finned fish? Should be a quiz question.
That is a really weird quiz question with that definition, but okay.
That's a fish that has a short arm before the fin attaches to the body.
No. Apparently, Kent Hovind is unaware of dipnoi, the lungfish, which have long, spindly fins that don't even splay out. I'm just taking a drink for Kent not apparently knowing that either that lungfish exist or that they're lobe-finned fish.
Lungfish are Kent's worst nightmare.
Yeah. Well, they are great extant transitional fossils.
The textbook says lobe-finned fish are index fossils for 325 to 410 million year old rock.
Kent, that's not what that is. That is you being used as an example fossil of a typical kind of fossil you can find there. That is not a list of index fossils unless you think early reptiles are an index fossil for the whole Permian. How? And I guess the Ordovician just doesn't get index fossils.
Mm.
And the Silurian is just early fish. Like, come on, man. It's not even accurate. The Mammaliformes in the Triassic aren't even real true mammals. Oh my god, how is it getting this bad? Take another drink, my goodness. Guys, send help. I need help. I'm not gonna make it.
Well, now, just hold on a minute. Lobe fin fish are still alive. Look at
Yeah, that's true. We'll take another drink, I guess. There's lots of lobe fin fish. You're a lobe fin fish, Kent. Jeez. I can feel myself losing my cool, and I don't like it very much.
No.
the fins on this fish. This is called a coelacanth. The coelacanth was discovered in 1938. A guy accidentally discovered one at a fish market in Madagascar, I believe. Realized, wow, this is a coelacanth. A fish that has a little short arm and then the fin grows out. And so they've since found quite a few coelacanths. Several aquariums have them.
I don't know about that, but maybe.
They apparently live very deep in the ocean, in the Indian Ocean. They've been discovered in Indonesia and in India, and off the coast of India and off the coast of Madagascar, Africa.
Yeah, that's basically right.
Mostly the Indian Ocean. I'm not aware of them being anyplace else. But the coelacanth, when they found it, and here the textbooks had been telling the kids this is 70 million years old.
Yeah, because the actual fossil species don't extend past the KPG. And they're all shallow water marine and like lacustrine and fluvial species. They're river species, lake species, and shallow marine species, which are the places we tend to get fossils. We don't really have a lot of deep marine fossils because deep marine sediment tends to get subducted. So, okay, but again, none of those were in Latimeria, the genus to which the two modern species belong, because they're all different. Some of them were in Latimeridae, which is the family to which the modern coelacanth belongs. Vishanti, who's been a member for 26 months and is at the tetrapod level, says, "Are you a coelacanth or a coelacanth?" I'm a coelacanth. There you go. That's me. Although I'm not sure that I actually can make it through this. I might be a coelacanth to make it through this. Goodness, this is one of the worst ones we've ever done in terms of Kent's insanity. This is really bad.
Well, they found the coelacanth still alive, and the guy said, wow, look at this. One survived for 70 million years.
Well, two. Although, how recently they speciated is up for debate, so... Cookie's right, for $5, says, did Kent spell lobe finned on that slide because he has tax fraud fines weighing on his brain lobes? Oh, lobe find? Yeah. Did Kent spell it lobe find? I doubt it, but that would be an interesting little Freudian slip there. Yeah, lobe find. Yeah, cross-platform adventure says we have to rescale the Hovind. Yeah, like a millihovind isn't what it used to be, apparently.
No, it's not.
It doesn't even enter their mind that, wait a minute, maybe your geologic column is baloney. See, they have to defend that geologic column. You don't dare question that because you lose your job.
I mean, if you had evidence to question it, you could question it. Do you, Kent? Because I'll guarantee you that the coelacanth exists doesn't do that.
So instead, they'll say, wow, some survived for 70 million years. They do the same thing when they find a living dinosaur.
Other than birds, Kent, you've gone through many examples. None of them checked out. But even if they did, okay, yeah, that is what they would say. I guess dinosaurs, well, non-avian dinosaurs survived longer than we thought. Woo!
Wow, some of them survived for 70 million years. They just don't get it.
I mean, heck, your lineage survived for that 70 million years, Kent. Is that really more amazing? I don't think so.
No. Just
Textbook
something that
said-
happened. No.
Okay.
Dinosaurs lived 70 million years ago. Oh, wait a minute.
It's 66 plus, all the way back to the late Triassic, which is way more than 70 million years ago. But okay, Kent.
Dinosaur blood was found inside the bone.
No, it wasn't. Staining from iron derived from blood was found, as well as structures that were morphologically consistent with red blood cells, but were not sufficient to identify as such have been found. It's not like you're digging up a fossil, you break it open, and it starts bleeding on you. That's not what's happening. There's no blood. There aren't even intact proteins left. There are protein fragments that have been folded on themselves by the presence of iron, which is also the chemical mechanism that formaldehyde uses to preserve things. Yeah.
Cut open a dinosaur bone and they could still see the blood cells in there.
No, you can't. That's not how it works. You can thin section a dinosaur bone and then look under a microscope and see reddish stains. That's not the same thing. Bent, you're a microscopy type guy.
Yeah.
Is a red stain the same thing as blood?
No.
Oh, okay. Just checking.
No, it is not. It turns out.
I'm taking a drink for how stupid Kent is being. Jack the Hearts for £2 says, my brother in Christ, you are a transitional form. Yeah, we all are. It's true. Yeah, but Kent likes to deny that. All right. We're getting close, but I don't know if we're going to make it to another 2-2.
Mm.
Don't you think the blood cells would rot in less than a few million years?
They did! That's why you don't find intact blood cells. Please, every single sentence. It's so dumb.
Well, yes, I do think they would. Thanks.
Oh my goodness. And for $1.99, Ren says, okay, Kent with the new... Okay, Kent is the new okay boomer. Yeah, seriously. Oh my goodness. This is... I'm going to have to take another... I'm going to have to make a whole other drink after this just to help me recover. I was going to try to do, audio recording tomorrow. No, I'm just going to have to script. I'm not going to wake up without, a hangover tomorrow. It's just not happening. This is a lot. Remember that time that Kent implied that he didn't believe in rain? Or that time that he thought that spaghetti sprung from the ground? You can go spaghetti mining?
He's confused.
Oh,
He's a confused individual.
Or that time that he thought that Timothy wrote 1st and 2nd Timothy.
He wrote letters to himself.
Yeah.
Video number 2, we have some more on dinosaurs and humans still living together, of course, what we just covered in the last part. This is a biology book. Let's see, I don't think I brought that one, did I?
By the way, if we got 15 more into memberships, we would probably get a new emoji. I can't guarantee it.
Okay. Nope. Campbell? No. He says 18-million-year-old magnolia leaves from Idaho shale were still green when the rock was first cracked open. Now, what's the problem with his statement?
Well, one of the problems is that I don't know how to get this book to check this, but the other one is that there just isn't one. There's no particular time frame in which green pigments have to break down. 18 million years is actually not that long, geologically speaking. A few things like that. Oh, and DM Luca was a Trilobite confirmed wing, has just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Richard Taylor, Sergey Huchko? I'm not sure. Let's see. Wild Weasel 47, John, and Redmond 17, and then Stephen Reno just gifted 5 more, which went to Nicole Interrobang, Sabi, Vincent Sulorito, and Not a Summer Child. So we'll take 10 drinks here. Thank you very... Oh, what just happened? Why is my computer's being dumb?
Oh.
All right, and then Regios just gifted 5 more, going to David Taylor, Dr. Teriyaki Weasel. No, not Dr. Teriyaki. Dr. Teriyaki Weasel. To Hillhugger, Joel Duff, Jasper, and Didgeridoo, which is a great name. So I guess 15. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And here's a problem. That finishes it off. So, Bent, could you entertain the people for just a little bit while I quickly pour another drink?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be right back, everybody.
How's everybody doing? All right. I will take this time to say thank you to Fade to Gray, who has gifted me a box of Pop-Tarts from my Amazon wish list. Thank you very much. That was very nice of you. I really appreciate it. Bent now has unlimited power. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a whole bunch of pelagic tunicates out there. Just a couple times. Just for fun. See if I get caught. Sing us a ditty. Bent doesn't sing yet. Dance in the tutu. Tutu, there's a fan blowing air up on it. And I can toss it up too. Livens it up a little bit. Welcome.
All right. I am back, everybody. Thank you very much, Bent. All
You're
right.
welcome.
Here's 10. Let me stir this a little bit first so I don't just drink a bunch of rum and just straight rum. All right, here's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, thank you very much. And that does give us a 2-2,
Oh,
by the
nice.
way. All right. We're going to get a little bit more Kent in. This is the first time in a very long time I've had to make a third drink for the show. But with 77 drinks, yeah.
That'll do it.
He assumes they're 18 million years old. Truth of the matter is,
No, I don't think he does. I'm pretty sure that was measured, but sure.
probably that Idaho shale buried all sorts of things at the time of the flood.
I have never met a creation or heard of a creationist who would say that 18 million year old shale would be flood rock. Right? Because they just can kind of condense the time frame. That is post flood for virtually everyone. I'm pretty sure even ICR says that that's post flood. Kent has absolutely no idea where the flood boundary would be. So, yeah. That's taking a drink for how dumb that is. Which, let me double check here on this. So, that should put me at just enough. Yeah, just enough emojis. Or just enough people for an emoji, I think. Oh, they changed how you do these things. Gross. Thanks for changing your interface, YouTube.
In the Reader's Digest, Mysteries of the Unexplained, there's a whole section about living toads that when you break open a lump of coal...
It's almost never coal, by the way. This is a thing, like various, like, Lazarus frogs. Yeah, it's a thing that has been reported. But as far as I can tell, it's never been reported, like, with super a lot of, reliability, if you will. So, yeah. By the way, I am adding a stand-in emoji right now.
Nice.
It will not be permanent, but if you want to send it, you can. Horseflesh, who's been a member for 10 months, is at the Tetrapod level, says, how many drinks before it stops cooling? Mott with a Ghidorah. I don't know. A lot. Oh, the aspect ratio has to be 1 to 1. That's so lame. I don't even know if I have any 1-to-1 aspect ratio. This one. We'll try that for that one. I don't know. I just like to reserve it so that like I could. Yeah, there it is. Okay, so there's one there because if I reserve it and then we drop below the number, then I don't get to have the new emoji. But if I reserve it now, and then it'll stay. Yeah. Anyway, all right, a little bit more, Kent.
Toad jumps out.
Yeah, you know, we're going to deal with the whole toad thing later. Steve Marino's getting right in there with the triangle emoji that exists literally just as a placeholder. It's the triangle meme about how you can be well-informed, honest, or creationist, but you can only pick two of those, right? You can be a well-informed and dishonest creationist, or you can be an ill-informed and honest creationist, or you can be an well-informed, honest, non-creationist. So, yeah, Shanti says, you're welcome. Yeah, thanks for giving me the 1-to-1 ratio thing there. I will be taking recommendations for the next emoji, which is the one that people are spamming. It's what it's going to change into. So, yeah, let me know. But we're going to start wrapping things up, guys. Thank you so much. You guys are extremely generous. We got a new emoji. We haven't had one of those in a while. It's always fun to get new emoji. Bent, do you have anything you want to say to people before we get out of here and head over to the Discord to watch 4 episodes of Power Rangers Lost Galaxy?
Yeah, speaking of Power Rangers, I will be on Top Hats Off tomorrow night for Power Rangers.
That is indeed the plan.
Jungle Beast.
Yep, I have to double check with everybody to make sure everyone's good. But yeah, the plan is Power Rangers Jungle Beasts episode 23, I think.
And then I have my Amazon wishlist and my Patreon and my music link in the description.
Kenneth says, keep triangle. I mean, do people like the triangle?
Maybe.
I mean, people really seem to like the triangle. Maybe I'll just keep the triangle. All right, hold on. We're going to do a poll here. Here's what's going to happen. Start a poll. Do I keep the triangle? Yes, no. That's going to be a poll now. All right, so let's see. What is coming up here on my channel? Channel you're all on. You guys know about this place. All right. On Thursday, I am going to be premiering the ICR's Nonsense Facts 12 through 20. That will include the 7-day week, Creation Days, Night Sky, Blue Stars, Second Law, Science and Scripture, Global Flood, Dinosaurs on the Ark, and Flood Stories. So, yeah, tune in for that on Thursday. On Saturday, the plan currently is another Dapper Reacts. I will be inviting Vishanti. I may even invite Kip back. He seemed to have fun last time, although he might want to pick something to drink that's a little less strong than just, straight whiskey. Because, whoo, boy, that's kind of rough for one of the drinking streams here. And then next Tuesday will be another Kent with Bent with a tutu again, because, hey, y'all hit the tutu goal. So
Yay.
Now the real question is, can they get a tutu next time? And of course, DM Luca was a Trilobite confirmed wing for $2 sends 5 triangle emojis. I was literally just looking for something that had the right aspect ratio. I'm kind of surprised you guys are so enthusiastic about the triangle. But yeah, look, we're currently 62% yes, keep the triangle. So right now, at least, it looks like we're keeping the triangle. The text is unreadable, but we all know what the meme is. So I don't know. Yeah, and Vishanti says, hey, if Kip wants straight whiskey, who am I to stop him? I mean, fair. But it is illegible. Maybe a better triangle. Well, the problem with the better triangle is, there's no way to make the text legible. So I'll tell you what, I'll keep in mind that 62% of people like the triangle. I might just make a generic triangle, and you just have to know what the triangle beam is, which is kind of okay, because that's a lot of the emojis here are based on memes that you wouldn't really get unless you watch the channel. So, yeah, I might change it to a different triangle instead of the white on black, no transparency. It might be a red triangle or something like that. But, yeah, I'm going to be heading over to the Discord where we're going to be watching Power Rangers. I'll be there in just a few minutes. So if you are someone who has access to the Discord, please feel free to hop over and come hang out with us as we watch Power Rangers Lost Galaxy. All right, everybody, have a wonderful night. I hope we have a safe rest of the week, and I hope to see all of you on Thursday.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, before you leave, I just want to take a second to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above. Ben Tovand, Whispers, Denny5252, Elron Teller, Phil Prevara, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabbity Babbity, Monkey They Them, Sphincter of Doom, Strawberry Vein, Star Runner, and Dr. Tapioca Weasel. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.